Hi guys!
Hello.
Welcome to the Dating Doctors special pre-Thanksgiving edition. Because I didn't think any of you would want to be eating turkey, being around the table with all your family and friends, watching our crazy stories, and today especially, because we promised you last week that, hey Claire,
Hi, Claire.
we promised you a special edition that would speak about
Sexual energy directed at work and in business.
yeah, your sexual energy and how you can harness that in your life and your business to make both of those parts of your life more fulfilling and actionable, and getting yourself into a position of making good choices, empowering choices. And I think what Tatiana has done is she was the one who's brought up the subject last week, and it is a great subject. So for this show is going to be hosted by Tatiana, and of course I'm going to interject because I honestly don't know this material. So
well, this is a conversation.
Yeah, she's going to be like enlightening all of us, and I'm going to of course bring in some questions. Hey Joe, thanks for coming on to the Dating Doctors. This episode is about sexual energy and how you can harness it in your business. And we're all sexual beings. We're all have that as part of us, and humans have to harness that energy. So Tatiana is here. Thanks Joe for saying hello. We really appreciate you coming on and listening to how to harness. I know. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's not going to be
this
that
is
graphic.
Not, if you have children in the room, this is
Maybe.
probably a time where you want to say, "Hey kids, go play outside. It's beautiful out." Because we're going to be talking about how to harness your sexual energy in your business and in life. So here's Tatiana. She's going to start to tell us about what she has found about the subject.
So, okay, let me preface this with a couple things. Okay, thank you.
John Wiles, you are the embodiment.
Let me preface this by saying this is my first time ever doing any sort of Facebook Live where I'm the one speaking. I don't do Instagram, Facebook Live, nothing like that.
She's going to do
But
great.
this is really fun. I'm excited to talk about this. It made me think about this a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm really hoping to do is have an exciting conversation. Maybe some Thanksgiving dinner talk. Maybe not. I don't know.
Depends on the family.
Depends on the family. Yes, that is true. But okay, also I do want to say I'm sorry if this is too graphic, but I'm trying to keep it fairly appropriate.
This is for adults.
But this is for adults. And honestly, it's not that serious. So what does our sexual energy have to do with business, with our work, creative energy, all of that? At first I kept thinking, well, for most of my life I thought nothing. They're two separate things. I can be a businesswoman in one, realm in my life, and I can be a sexual person in a different life, or not at all because I'm really focusing on being single right now. Like, as opposed to it really permeating through our whole body and our existence. So the perfect example of this, I thought about this on my lunch break, is think about on the chaste version of this, when you're first dating somebody and you are just so excited, and you could be not even kissing, not even holding hands, nothing like that. But you're just so excited, you have this spark in you, and that will permeate through the rest of everything else that you do.
Absolutely.
So you will start to take care of yourself typically a little bit better. You might start getting a little more healthy, and it just somehow brings a little bit of spark into your life. And so when that energy is right, that can go from that extreme to think about those of you who are married, so that's for more of a single person. For those of you who are married or in partnerships, think about the difference between when you leave your house in the morning, and we've all done this, with a kind of peck on the cheek, or no one's really looking at each other, and you're kind of maybe even like talking to one kid or something, and your day can be good, but you're gonna walk into that office a little bit differently than if your spouse pinned you up against the fridge and you had a nice little makeout session.
See, and that's where I'm going with this.
No, listen to the rest of what I'm saying.
Wait, Joe says, so should we date a different person every day?
I think monogamy can be the sexiest thing.
I think that you can make the person that you're with a different person every day. So putting it in this terms is that hey Rose, thanks for joining us. So, a lot of couples lose that spark, that, what you originally, in the beginning, it's like, oh my God, we're like, we
Exactly.
can't keep our hands off each other. And it's because of how we're looking at the other person. Not so much that they've changed or they've been, so if you keep that going on, and I think it's really important, and I'm sorry to get you off topic.
Oh no, this is perfect.
But
this is perfect.
I have a friend of mine who decided that they're going to stay married for the kids, and we had this discussion over and over this week about staying together for the kids, because he felt that being in the kids would be in a dysfunctional family if they were to divorce. And I said, let me tell you something, because he's dating women and she's dating a guy. But they're living in a household as if they're a married couple raising their 2 kids, and their 2 kids are teenagers, okay? So I said to him, look, what's dysfunctional is that they're not seeing the parental unit, the marital unit, holding hands, kissing, showing affection toward each other. That to me is dysfunction. Because your children can only model the behavior in which they see. So if you two, he's sleeping in one bedroom, she's sleeping in another bedroom, and I understand that, financially you may not be in a position to move out, and that may be a reason why you're living in that condition. But in all honesty, you should work as hard as you can to not be in that position, if it means taking on a second job or maybe changing your overall expenses, because the children are not benefiting by seeing the modeling of a relationship in the form of 2 people sleeping in 2 different bedrooms who don't hold hands, who don't show affection, who don't have that kind of chemistry between the 2 of them. And that may lead those children to, when they go to look for a relationship, those physical aspects, that lovingness, that will not be there for them in their relationships, because they have nothing else to go by other than what they saw from their parents. So this is where we're talking about the sexual energy and how that permeates not only the relationships, but it also permeates through your business and your everyday life. So if you leave the house and maybe you had sex that morning with your spouse, I would make a point, this is just me, but I would say make a point of it that you have, maybe have a number of times that make sense for you, but leaving the day, when you starting out the day with that is awesome. It makes the whole
shower or something.
Any kind of sexual coming together. I guess that could be ideally, but if not, if just giving that other person the affection that they need, that can carry throughout the whole day, which helps to success. So,
and that's actually a perfect segue, because you can feel that energy. So we say, kids can feel that, and there's a reason why most walks of life, various religions, various types of people, everyone kind of agrees that typically in a healthy household, it will often start with a healthy marriage and then go down to the kids, right? So as leaders in our business environments, when we walk into the room, what are we projecting and emanating into the office, right? Are we making our employees tense up, or are we enabling our employees to be and uplifting them to be the best that they can be, and yet challenging them and knowing that balance? And so that's a very similar kind of parallel view with that. At the same time, it's also keeping it with that exciting sort of, innovative and intent that you have in the beginning of a relationship. A lot of times as employees, we might come in with that, maybe that fades, or you work your way up a company and you kind of get maybe jaded, or you're just at the top and you're burnt out. And so how to protect that and keep those intentions. As leaders, just like with the marriage analogy again, along with the lines of divorce, right? They're saying they're keeping it, so they're saving face for the kids. But the kids know. So now there's a situation of distrust there, when in reality they could have created, and of course there's proper timing, but as leaders in business or in any kind of environment where we need to look at timing and be sensitive with information that we might have, it might be a positive thing in the company, but knowing, to be sensitive to your employees' needs, trying to make it work out for everybody the best way that it can. If you are an employee being sensitive to your leadership and respecting their time when you are in a working environment and staying focused. So keeping those lines very, very open and honest, and as what with keeping safe boundaries. And all of that sounds very business oriented, and all of it can also sound very sexual oriented. So there's a lot of things that really play in with each other. A little bit more of a fun analogy. One thing I was thinking about on my lunch break was knowing when to tighten the reins and knowing when to loosen them. And so, sorry, Mom and Dad, hope you guys are not watching this, but if you are someone who, like to be controlled a little bit more, is there a comment?
Yes, intimacy is not just a sexual act. It's far more powerful, that transcends through all the parts of your being. And there's more to it. I just can't read it all. But I totally agree that, I'm going to put it out there. You guys all know that I'm an open book, and I think I say the things that you would like to say, but maybe be a little standoffish or worry about. But in all honesty, we are all human beings. I am not ashamed to say that one of my best months, goal-wise, in business was the month that I was in a very happy relationship with a gentleman, and all of my needs were being met, and that was intimacy, sexually, just having that closeness with another human being. All of those factors were being met in my life, and my goal for the month, business-wise, I reached it. And that's just, maybe that's just me. Maybe some of you work better. I know some athletes are told to, abstain from sex, I think, before a big game, because that takes away their energy. But I believe that that's not the case for us in business, where we're not in sport, where it's just one game could determine our future. Our business and our careers are long game. So the longer that we are satisfied in our sexual being, in our sexual life, that will transcend into our business. A good life that makes us reach higher heights, absolutely. And a good life is a balanced life. And part of, when you're single and you don't have that companionship, that touch, that intimacy, and yes, that sexual outlet, I find that my business can be affected by that. And I think that
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Cool.
I think that there's things that can be said for both. So I do think that there are valid benefits to the various seasons in life. I am someone who has always genuinely loved being single, but I also currently love being in the kind of wife, motherhood season of life. So but yeah, we're going to talk about balance, and we're going to talk about in work, though, when to loosen the reins versus tighten them up. So some of us, and again, take this sexually, take this business-wise, whatever, take it for both. I was thinking about this on my lunch break when I was getting my thoughts together for this. And I was sort of doing a brain dump, and in my head, I wanted to come back here, and I wanted to organize it with my markers, and I wanted to make bullet points. And what I'm realizing is that, that was just kind of my nervousness, needing to be in control. And really, this would be a lot more fun if I just kind of printed out my brain dump and let it go, right? There are other times in business where I need, especially me being a little bit more on the probably creative end of things, I almost have to be hyper-focused. And so when it comes to my work environment, I do have to be very kind of rigid and things like that. Leaders in our business world is hard, especially because how you get to that point is often by being very hands-on, by being very detail-oriented, and those are amazing qualities to be celebrated. But typically the most growth that we have are when you take risks and when you go outside your comfort zone just a little bit. Something to be said about that is one thing that I think is really interesting are love languages, and so that's a whole separate topic. But
the love languages, will absolutely have another real show on that as well.
Super real. I think they apply to work, romantic, everything. But one thing I've gotten introduced to lately are like flirting languages and types. And so sometimes in our partnerships, one person can really appreciate sort of being stoked throughout the day and text messages and, this is about balancing sexual energy with business. And it's not as like controversial as one would think. But, and so with that, I think I hear my mom walking down.
We have to, we're doing it from her bedroom. This is like Wayne's World. Okay, we're not.
Okay.
But yeah, the harnessing of your sexual energy into your business and your life.
And you can be single, or you can be very, very celibate and be doing this. And you can also be in a committed relationship. You could be on the dating scene. So this is not someone who is like sexually liberated and on the streets just having. This is just a very, I think a very healthy view of things. So with that, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry. Well, let's say
flirting relationship or flirting languages. So one thing that can be, it's not so much an exercise in doing it that way for that partner. So if one person likes the text messages throughout the day, the other person wants to be caught off guard, how do you blend that to? I say try to do the opposite. So those of you who are in relationships, try to do it and see what happens. And typically it's not that you guys are going to become experts at that. It's that you're going to realize it's extremely uncomfortable and it's not your norm. And suddenly you have a lot of grace for that partner or someone who maybe isn't flirting with you in your language or isn't showing you love in your language. When you try to do it outside your comfort zone, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm asking them to do to me what I can't even do to them. And so in business, getting outside your comfort zone. So if you're feeling really, really frustrated because a goal isn't happening a certain way, or your employees aren't responding to you a certain way, and you're like, I always do this, this, and this, and I always have the same problem, chances are, maybe take a little chance and do something completely outside your norm. On that topic, similar with sexual energy, especially people who are in a little bit of a different kind of partnership, maybe more, I don't know how to explain this, but talking about risks and safety and boundaries. And so knowing professionally when to take risks and when to kind of hold back. And
I want to talk about that because in business, I noticed, as an entrepreneur, and many of you out there watching are self-employed and an entrepreneur, and we find, and I speak for all entrepreneurs because I'm the spokesperson apparently, I believe that we make a lot of decisions spontaneously. So spontaneously is something that works really well in sex, okay? So I think that when you're planned out, and if think of it this way, if you were to have someone print it up, okay, this is what we're going to do tonight. Okay. Let's start with Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. In all honesty, that's not going to make for a very good sexual experience because you're going to have to keep stopping and looking at let's check that one off. Okay, business flows like sex. Business is a spontaneous coming together of ideas.
Well, and only because there's two of us, and and this is actually very typical because we're going to talk about masculine and feminine energy. But here, I like to counterbalance. It's just kind of my nature. Yeah. But my nature is telling me to say that at the same time, if a couple is not having sex, perhaps the sexiest thing they can do is say, okay, tomorrow night, it's on. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to plan it. And in the morning, I'm going to see a glimpse of you walking through, getting yourself dressed. And it's going to cultivate that all day. That can be as sexy as possible. So it's just knowing when to do that. And in business, I think both ends of people need to try it out a little bit. Get outside your comfort zone.
I think in my opinion I think the most successful business people are the ones who are able to adapt in the moment, because there's plenty of books about how to run your business, and there is blueprints, and there are blueprints that can be followed. But those of us who know that when a wall falls down, we need that wall to go back up, and we need to make it happen no matter what. And then we find a way to make it happen, whether it's duct tape or whatever the case may be. Although, if you wanted to bring duct tape into the bedroom, I'm only saying. No, but really, honestly, that's what we're discussing today, is that...
If it makes you uncomfortable, think about that for a
Yeah,
second.
anything and that's growth, business growth. If you're not feeling uncomfortable in business, then you're not growing, okay? Being in your comfort zone in business and in relationships, in the bedroom, being comfortable becomes what? Boring, okay? What happens when it becomes boring? You don't like the job that you do. You keep coming to the same job every day, and that day has a pattern that feels comfortable for you, but there's only so long that can go on. So there's always going to have to be some kind of a shake-up, a kind of an energy that has to always come in. I love Claire. Duct tape fixes all things. If you're born and raised in the South, absolutely. Can it fix your relationships? It may actually do that. Okay, it's about being
if used in the right way.
Right. by bringing that energy into your business, and that's what we were talking about today, is bringing that sexual energy into your business, that spontaneity, that being pushed out of the comfort zone, in the bedroom as well as in your relationships as well as in your business. You will be finding great success in all aspects of life. So harnessing that and understanding how that works is essential to growing anyone's business. And some people are overthinkers, and overthinking would not be sexy to me. I'm sorry.
No, there's definitely a balance to things. And with that, I have heard that when you get your sexual energy right, again, single, to get with someone, whatever, it flows into everything else in your life. So, and the reason for that is because, think about it, if there's a problem with your, if there's a problem with your relationship, and typically if you go to a therapist or something like that, a lot of times people will say, well, how is this relationship? Or how is, and that's typically touched on. And we don't, as single people, a lot of times talk about that. I think that's not fair, because what do you do with that, right? And so what we're seeing in society is a lot of really unhealthy habits. Now, I'm all for doing what you want to do, whatever, but the point is though, if it's not healthy, if you're doing it because you feel like you have to fill a void or something like that. And so, the same thing with a couple relationship, if and I hate bringing my business onto camera, but if my relationship is not healthy, it's not that it's the sex that's unhealthy. A lot of times, am I irritated by him when I don't really need to be, and therefore we're not really flirting as much? Maybe is he nitpicking at me about something? He doesn't need to do that. Maybe we're both just stressed and tired. But what it does is a really powerful thing, is that it causes most people, including if you're single, and most people, if they're single and you're having maybe some dating, maybe not problems, but you're not as successful as you want it to be. I see the most successful, well-intentioned people usually look inward, and so do most healthy couples. So we may not do that all the time. I definitely blame my partner for things unfairly, sometimes for days on end, and then I'll usually have a wake-up moment. Typically it's when I'm listening to country music or watching This Is Us, and I will start crying, and I will be like, thank you, Claire. And I will be like, oh my gosh, I've been such a jerk. And I realize all the things I've been doing and why the energy is not right. It's because I'm not feeling good. Same thing. Last week I was super grumpy, I think in every area of my life. And I think I just kept attracting all this horrible stuff that kept happening. And I kept realizing it's because I keep saying everything keeps happening to me. What's going on? So sexual energy is so powerful. It doesn't have to be so controversial, because all it does is cause personal responsibility, and that equals power. And something that I want to talk about that is going to be a whole other topic is that masculine and feminine energy. Some people think very liberal with that. Some people think very traditional with that. I think a blend of the two. I think that's something that we can talk about. But one of the things with business specifically that I see a lot of is, are we adopting traits that are not true to ourselves? So an example of that is I'm 30 years old now, and my mom always said this, but who I am today is not who I was when I was 20, and when I'm 50, I know I'll be like, oh wow. But at the same time, I do look back on my career and in my professional life, and I think one of the reasons I had a hard time with certain seasons in life was because I was trying to be these leaders that I saw around me, and who, they're great leaders in their own right, but I don't have that energy. So what happened was I ended up going to Alaska, and I was kind of given a staff of 70 people, and I got a lot of great kind of feedback on that. But when I look back, I feel really, really sad and embarrassed, because I feel like I went in there almost a little bit bulldogish and almost a little bit overpowering and a little bit on the kind of like masculine side. And that's not a bad thing, but for me, it kind of didn't feel supernatural. And what I found was at the times with my staff that I opened up a little and I found that balance with the true kind of nurturing side of me, it worked a lot better. And so now I'm in a different environment, and one thing that I'm finding is to find strength in sort of the fact that I'm a little bit more of a quiet-natured person in some situations. That's not a bad thing. You can still be a leader 100% and not be as fabulous and bombastic as this woman is. So, I think at the same time, you can also shine and I don't want some other women to feel like they need to dim that. So there's a fine balance, but I think having that blend of both, being aware of when to channel both. There's even seasons in this job when I have to be a little bit more of that, let's get shit done. I'm sorry. Let's get stuff done.
No, I think it's fun.
And I like that time. It becomes fun, you know? So.
Well, I want to add to that. I'm coming off of what you just said. Okay, so we're talking about, sexual energy in the workplace and in your life and having that balance. And I want to tell you something. I find I am an entrepreneur. I'm working as a female in a leadership position, running a business, and I find that does not translate well. That energy of being a leader, a female in business, gives me a masculine energy that when it comes to dating and with men, they don't resonate with that. They're used to what's considered a feminine energy, and a feminine energy, typically, traditionally, the thought process is we are subservient, we are submissive, we are there to pleasure the man, we are there to be, his backbone, we are to be his support system, and when in all actuality, as a leader in business during the day, my role is to be all of those things to my staff and to my clientele. So I have to take a masculine energy and channel that during the day, but then in the dating world, I'm being seen as not approachable because I have that masculine energy.
That is just the wrong men. Because
I don't think it is. I don't think it's the wrong men.
But I think that we don't have to see high success business women as a masculine trait. So I'm like happy that there are more women getting like this, because it may not be today, and it may not be even in our children's generation, but I don't see it being a like masculine businesswoman or a feminine, subservient other woman. I think that there's going to be this moment where there's these, and I'm seeing more and more of them around me, of these very powerful, yet very sexy and flirtatious and vivacious. And that's not and no dig on this, but that's not the women of the 80s, the business women of the 80s that wore sneakers and enunciated their shoulders to make them look more masculine, even if it was subconsciously because of fashion. So we're now seeing, the fact is, like I was talking to my partner about this, even a couple of years ago, I felt like I had to dress in very I call them the Lori from Shark Tank dresses, these like power dresses, and that's sexy and that's beautiful, but I'm seeing more and more women kind of find their own styles even, and I love that. I think that as more women get up in these fields, it's not going to be seen as a woman in a man's world. It's just going to be a power world where there's men and women. I think it's generational. Men are not going to be intimidated by that, and that's a rare find.
I think it's generational because I'm going to be 50 next year, and I think our generation is definitely from the power women of the 80s. Now we're 50 years old, and traditionally that we still have this old traditional ways. So if I don't come off as a woman who's has a feminine more of a feminine trait. I come off more as a masculine
think you
trait.
do.
And well, in this, it depends. I think when in the dating world, as soon as I tell someone that, you know, I have a marketing company and blah blah blah, I actually have men run the other direction. They run because they don't feel that they don't own their own businesses. They don't run their own businesses. They are employees of someone else or whatever the case may be. And they feel that that woman is trying to be a man. And if that is not sexy, okay? That's just not sexy to most men. They want a feminine, soft woman who's, you know, and I could be wrong, but in all honesty, it's all I've come across.
Yeah.
I've come across very few men who are secure with being with a woman who also has to make decisions all day long, who is in that position in their business. And when I come home, the man that I want to be with, I want to have that conversation about how was your day? How is your day, hon? And the two of us can talk about things at a high level. And that seems to not be the case with most men. They want to be heard. They want to be like, how was your day? And then the woman just be quiet. Just don't tell me anything about your day. Your day is nothing next to mine. And of course, maybe that's because I'm attracting the closed-minded men, I guess.
Yeah.
But then again, this is the energy that I have. This is who I am. So I guess I think I have a very personally, I believe I give off a vibe. I put it all out there. I'm not scared of my sexuality. I don't run from it. I don't try to hide it. I don't mask it. I appropriately believe that a man and a woman should bring their sexuality into the workplace, obviously in an appropriate way, which is through their energy. Okay, it's not the words or what they wear or how they speak to their coworkers or employees or how they touch each other. All that stuff is wrong. That's just all wrong. But there is energy that is brought into your business through your sexuality, and I believe that's what we're trying to focus on today, is how you can harness that. And it's really, number one, starts with acknowledging it. You cannot harness something that you don't acknowledge exists. So
yeah, and I think that one of some of the things that we can talk about with that specifically is knowing that it's there, knowing that we are all sexual people, that it is how we were all brought to life. So therefore, it is the very core. I think it is one of the most core aspects of our creativity. Like, it's one of the core sources of our creativity. Think about songs, music. Everything is always best when it's a little bit sexy, and that's not a bad thing at all. And
Absolutely.
so we have now, there's sexy toothbrushes or sexy, water bottles.
sex sells.
So
That's a marketing
and that's a very
tool.
that's like the very surface level, but at the very core of that, why is that? Is it because it is what we need to procreate? So therefore it does ripple outward, the same way if we're in a river. And so when we come to the workplace, it's not like she said, you don't have to be so overt with that. That can actually be very distracting to the end goal of what your job is trying to accomplish. So, but if you come in and you can kind of play with that a little bit in a very literal sense, people talk about foreplay and things like that, right? So I don't know, this is actually something I learned from you, from something you told me to watch.
Oh boy.
Women take 20 minutes to get to a point of being aroused.
You mean climax?
I guess foreplay alone? I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to research that more. But the point, though, is that takes a long time, right? And so...
We're allowed to say that.
Okay, I wasn't sure on this.
Yeah, it's scientific words. We're doctors.
Okay, well, this is like the first part, I'm sure of many. But, and so... But if you kind of look at that and you say to yourself, okay, I have to get this project done. And I'm going to set a timer for myself. And I'm not going to do anything but focus on this task for the next 2 hours. But yet you're physically itching to get up and go and check your phone. This is that's a whole other topic, but you know what I mean? Think about how much you could just channel even that, literally that energy. I hate to sound so woo-woo about it, but that literal energy of wanting to do something else besides that is the most meditative and mindful thing that we can do. And I know we hear these terms thrown everywhere. It's really not that scientific. All it is literally bringing your mind back to what you're doing. Meditation, all of that, it's just bringing your mind back to what it's doing. And so if you harness that and you say, okay, but when I'm done with that, I'm going to get a reward. And so this is actually something that's been proven. It's called the Pomodoro method or something. They have apps for it. I've been using it, and it's been helping me so much. And so you feel a little bit like, I'm like, ooh, okay, I'll get 20 minutes of checking Instagram and whatever. I don't know what I do on my free time, but and so it kind of creates that same thing that you get with like tantric sex or with foreplay. You end up kind of channeling it. And I was listening to a self-help book about a while ago about productivity, and he was saying, just start, say, I'm gonna do 5 minutes of this. Everybody has 5 minutes. So if you say, I'm thinking about this task, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do it 5 minutes, typically, a lot of times that will turn into you finishing that task because you're on a train, you're writing it. Now you can just kind of go with it. You're in that mindset. And so there's that aspect to it. The other side, the flip side, is also the surrendering sometimes, saying, this one I kind of struggle with in my workplace environment, and going, I'm going to come in, this is my schedule for the day, I will put it in my little planner and all of that. And where I failed in previous jobs was that when that schedule would get thrown off, it would literally throw me almost into a panic attack. And I feel so embarrassed, like looking back, because I feel that now I understand that there is freedom in planning for sure, and freedom in preparation, knowing that my day is scheduled, everybody's been taken care of, everything's good, your stuff's taken care of. There's a freedom in that. But there's also a sense of surrendering. And a lot of times in sexuality, sometimes, one person typically is the more dominant, one person's the more not so dominant, and it's kind of the same routine every single time. So again, going back to that flirting language, you switch that up, and you might laugh the entire time. Like, you might think it's hilarious and so awkward, but flipping the script is going to be humbling. It's going to be enlightening a little bit.
Well, that's where creativity comes in. I mean, that's where in successful businesses, you survive by your creativity. Yes, and plans, systems, processes, absolutely. So you have a system and a process, and plans. But when something knocks you off that plan, then you survive by the being able to be creative in the moment. And I think with marriages and relationships, what happens is that we have a system and a process that we put in place, which we need to have. Meaning, we get married. There's a
talking about sex, like what moves to do and to get the person off.
Oh no, I'm going there with that.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I'm getting there. I mean, it's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that sometimes, and I was married for 22 years, and I'll tell you, it becomes routine. That you have the same exact routine. You know what the trigger is, that that's my partner's signal that they want to have sex, and that becomes like Pavlov's dog, like the ringing of a bell, and that becomes the trigger. That trigger leads to this, and actually I think they've proven that it's like, if it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes now. It's become your pattern.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, you get routine. I mean, anyone who's married out there, and can maybe tell me that I'm not wrong, but you get into a pattern, and patterns work in business, make successful businesses, and yes, they make successful marriages, but it's that spontaneity of creativity, of thinking outside the box and being different, that keeps it fresh and keeps your partner wanting to come back for more, and they don't go outside looking for that spark again. And that's what I'm finding on this dating world, this whirlwind of dating. It's a lot of men, not a lot, but let's just say there are men on these dating sites who have been married for 20-something years, or are looking elsewhere to feel the spark again. That they don't feel wanted, they don't feel desired, it's become, the systems and the process has now become boring to them, which happens in business as well. Our best laid plans, right, can make us actually can falter us, and if we're not able to say, you know what, that system that I put in place 3 years ago in my business, it's no longer giving me the results I need. So you need to get rid of that process and replace it with a different process. Now, I'm not saying after 3 years you're in marriage and this is not working for me, so I get rid of the person and I get into a new marriage. What you can do is change is be more creative with your system and process so that you can keep that spark fresh. And that is something that we lose sight of in marriages, and why, and they say sex is only sex is only a problem in a marriage. I forget the quotient. It's like, it's like when it's sex, it's 80% of the marriage or something like that. When it's Oh, I have to look up that saying. But you guys, I'll look it up. But there's a quotient to when it's important. When sex is not part of a relationship,
right.
it's the 80%. When there is sex in the relationship, it's like the 10% problem. You know what I'm saying? Like it's. But anyway, we'll look it up. But you get what I'm saying.
What you're saying though is that yes, our systems and processes. Sometimes we have to be the one to be taking control, keep the reins on tight. Depending on our role within a business. So knowing when you are the person in charge of those things, but also I think that knowing your power and surrendering. So yes, being innovative, that is like what I talked about earlier, and that's something, I mean, we could talk about that sexually, business-wise, whatever, but also the opposite of that, surrendering. And so when people talk about like dominatrix and the subs, I don't even know, like all that stuff, one of the things that is like so striking to me for a long time was, well, how could someone give away like that power? So in such like a physical and intimate situation. And then it kind of clicked one day, like that's actually a really powerful thing if the relationship is extremely healthy, right? And I'm not talking extreme stuff. I'm just saying, the times like we all have a trust factor with our partners. And so when you walk into business and I know that I can have my plans laid out for the day, but I also know that my power is in the fact that if you walk in and say, our plans are completely different, they're going out the door, I know that I have the power in me, I have the capabilities. Like you say, there's no marketing emergency. I know that, thank God, I'm not a brain surgeon, that, you know what I mean? The worst stress of my day is someone probably watching this, calling me or you angry, like, and it'll be okay. Because our intentions are never evil. So the worst thing that's going to happen is going to be, and I'm not saying this is lightly, but an accident or a fire we have to put out. But ultimately, knowing that I have the power in that, and that I did not have 5 years ago. And so 5 years ago, I was structured out of anxiety. I was structured out of not having a power in me. And some of us can be like that with our dating, with our sex life. Like you said, we can micromanage it, and that squeezes the life out of it, right? Yeah. And so we have to surrender. We have to be.
There's
have to
power in
explore
surrendering.
And play, and realize that it's really, really, really fun. And I think we can play with the feminine and masculine energy all within ourselves too. So we know different days of, different days at work, different moments. We need to be a little bit more, masculine, whatever that looks like, and vice versa. So one of the things that kind of going along with that is I had an employee tell me one time that the power pose, I don't remember where she read this, but it was actually, I've heard two things. I've heard it's the like superhero when you stand up. Okay, so that makes you feel really empowered.
Okay, when this is the actual body language reading, when you put your hands on your hips, it's taking up all of the space around you, and that's your dominant pose. So if you ever see somebody talking to you and they go to put their hands on their hips, they're trying to dominate the area in which you're now standing.
Wow, I do that a lot. I just realized that.
Yeah. Oh, I
like do that all the time.
There's body language in dating. I've learned when you're sitting and you're meeting a person for the first time, if the gentleman's facing you and his feet are pointing towards you, look down at his feet, ladies. It tells you that he's interested in you. If his feet are pointed away from you, that's body language to say, I'm sorry, he's just not attracted to you. There's lots of other
there's one
subtle
more too. Okay, so if you like sit back and you kind of like recline and you put your hands like on the armrest right here, and you really and especially if someone is coming to meet with you and stands in front of your desk, and you, instead of standing up to like talk with them, you sort of lean back and recline a bit in your chair. That is said to be like the ultimate power pose because it's the most vulnerable. It's almost like, when cats, I know you're allergic to cats, but they say that, or dogs, when they kind of flop over and they expose their stomachs to you, that is where their organs are. That's if they get bit there, they're done. So when they show you that to say, pet me here, or scratch me here, it's like the ultimate trust level. So when you do that, you're projecting that. So I think, like you said, kind of study up on those body languages, but also it all starts with yourself, right? Your own sexual energy. So when you walk in the door, what kind of morning did you have? Did you take time to, and this may be more of a feminine thing, did you take time to get yourself together? This is something that you are like probably one of the best, like are like most you and one other person I can think of, which is my mom's friend, and she probably knows who she is, but are the two people who I have always seen, pretty much always put together. And I am not like that naturally, but you have actually really like inspired me to kind of have fun and play. So that's a very kind of feminine thing in some like animal, species, and sometimes it's a masculine thing. But did you do that morning? Do you feel different when you do that? I'm not talking a full face of makeup.
We're the only species that has sex for pleasure. Okay.
I thought dolphins do too. No?
I don't think so.
No.
But all other species out there have sex for procreation. We choose to have sex, and we are the only species that have sex face to face. And
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Okay. And how do I know all of this? Honestly, I just love to hear, things like that empower me, and I think that's empowering, is to know that how we are different from animals. We do make choices, and like in life and business, everything that we come to the table with is something that we've made a choice to do, and we are given that ability to make that choice, to have sex for pleasure, to be connected to another individual, to be intimate, to have that enjoyable experience between two consenting adults. And I think that is a wonderful thing, and how we harness that in our business is to understand that keeping it fresh, believing that it belongs in your life, believing that you need that energy, that you deserve it, and that brings it into your business. So, I'm glad that we talked about this subject today. I think that we did go a little further than we've ever gone before. We pushed the boundaries of the dating doctors, but we're here to push boundaries. We're here to grow, and to expand, and to learn from each other. I would love to have you on as a guest, anyone who's, especially a man who's watching this show, because we need to have your input. There's so much that we need to learn from each other. Lots of times we don't even discuss these things because maybe we don't feel comfortable with the subject matter, and that's fine. And I say that those of you who don't resonate with how open and honest we are, that's fine. That's okay. We're only trying to gravitate to people who get us, people who who are open to listening to what we have to say. So, we're not for everyone, and that just goes for life and business. The 1/3 rule, that we adhere to that 1/3 rule. 1/3 of the people will love us, 1/3 of the people will hate us, and 1/3 of the people will ignore us. And that's perfectly fine. So I'm hoping that you got something from today, and that you understand that there's so many aspects to your being a human being. There's so much to it, but one of them is your sexuality. And and if you are content in that part of your life, that will parlay into your business world, into making your goals, I believe, more obtainable. I think that when being alone, being lonely, is not something that we're made to be. Humans are not made to be alone. We are made to be in pairs. We're made to be, loved and cared for, by someone other than our own parents. I think there's a big thing to that. So that's why we strive so much looking for our mate. It is something that we do mate for life. Like penguins. There's very rare in the nature world where species mate for life, and human beings are one of them. And that's something that here on the dating doctors, the dating part is to lead to a very fulfilled sexual life. It's also to lead to a fulfilled intimacy and fulfilled a partnership with another human being. And that is all we're striving for with the dating doctors, is to have that in my life. And Tatiana has found her soulmate, which is amazing, and that's why she's a great resource. She is a success story. She's doing something right.
I don't think so much. Like, I appreciate that. I think that honestly, the more that I dig deep, and I know this sounds really narcissistic, and I am so I feel really weird saying this, but the more that I have found myself and realized that I'm my soulmate, and that sounds, I know, super weird, but the more that I have realized that I can't rely on my partner to make me feel sexy.
That's right.
I have to do that. And if I feel sexy in sweatpants and my hair up, chilling with no makeup on or whatever, then he'll find me sexy. If I feel sexy dressed like this with he calls this Coven lipstick, then and he doesn't find this attractive, I don't care, because I do. And you know what? This morning he looked at me like I was sexy because I thought I was. So I think really partnership or single, it radiates in here. And I have a lot to talk about with that too, but that's a whole other topic. And that could be as literal as you want it to be, or it could be as like a business oriented as you want that to be. But definitely focus on your own goals and yourself, but co-creating and partnerships are so crucial.
They
so
are.
doing the work to gain those partnerships and knowing when to surrender to them, when to take risks, when to know that it's the right time to grow your life, whether maybe that's with partnerships or a partnership. So there's great things with both ends of that. But.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We really appreciate you coming on and taking some time to listen to the Dating Doctors. Did I have crazy stories to tell you? Absolutely. I'll give you a crazy story on our way out, okay? I have to have a crazy story every single time. So, yeah, I'm dating. I go on tons of dates. Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you I went on my last date forever yesterday.
One day.
But that hasn't happened, and you have to meet as many people as you can and be open to other people. So yeah, I didn't go on a date. I just met somebody online, and literally a professional. His picture was amazing, very well dressed. I'll tell you, it said he was a mortgage lender. That was his profession.
Wow.
So I would classify that as a professional individual who was striving to raise 2 children. He had 2 kids in the picture. I resonated with the picture and the profile that was written. So we matched. Boom, you match. So I noticed that where he says his location was no longer the location when I originally swiped. So I said hi, he said hi, and I said to him, "Oh, it looks like you're not in Orlando. It says you're in Gainesville." And he goes, "Oh, I am driving back to Georgia where I live. I come every other weekend and I spend the weekend with my children for the last 3 years. They live in Orlando." And I'm like, wow, this is a dedicated father. This is, I'm all for that. I think it's fantastic. So we go back and forth, just, pleasantries, getting to know each other. And this is about 10 minutes into a text conversation, and I'm going to just say it. Can I say it? I'm going to say it. I literally was shocked, and I have been doing this for 2.5 years, which means I've been doing online dating. I had this gentleman out of nowhere, out of a conversation that ended with, "Yeah, I love seeing my kids. They're the world to me." He wrote, "You're either going to laugh or stop chatting with me." And I wrote back question mark. And he wrote, "Yeah, I'm driving to Georgia trying to stay awake." And I wrote back, "Well, we can chat. You could stay awake and we could chat." He writes back, "I pulled my pants down."
What?
I wrote question mark. And he goes, "I got to stay awake somehow." And I wrote back, "Please to God, don't tell me that I think what I think you're saying." And he wrote back, "Yup, doing what I got to do to stay awake." And I'm like, dear Lord, how did this go terribly wrong? How did this even happen? It is shocking. And I said, I sometimes get indignant, and I probably shouldn't. I probably should have just blocked him and went on my merry way. But sometimes I get indignant and I get all righteous. And I wrote back saying, "Dear God, a professional man with 2 children, dedicated father, you just told me you're pleasuring yourself while you're driving. Where has this world gone wrong?"
Yeah.
That's what I wrote, and then I blocked him. This is the thing. I guess that is a story that, it's funny, but it's also extremely sad, because I'm a really good person, and I will toot my own horn as far as, I don't care. I am my best advocate. I am a great woman. I am smart. I am a whole bunch of good things. But one thing I'm not is stupid. Okay? And this person who has to work with women all day long has no respect, 0 respect, and I did nothing to deserve that treatment. And that's something that made me really, really think about, should I get off of this online dating thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's really basically the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So
if I was married and like coming to you and saying my sex life is really boring and we do the same thing and the same one position every single time, but I don't feel alive and I feel like my relationship is falling apart, what would you say to me?
I say you need to change it up. Like, you need to stop doing that. You know, and that's what
that's scary. It's surrendering for those of us who like our control.
And I do, and this is the thing, I do go out a lot with my friends, and I'm very social, and I meet men, and I do, but nothing has come of it. Like, no, I do, because I'm much better in real life than I am actually on a photo and a little brief description. I definitely believe that I have so much more to offer, but the truth is that it's hard to get, for me, to get that point across through online dating. And you have men who just, for some reason, have just given up on being a good person, and decided to go to the dark side. So I guess I've been kind of, Darth Vader is a powerful force in the online dating, and people have gone to the dark side. So like I said, I do plug away. I do go out networking for business, and then meeting people, but no one has translated into, hey, I'd like to see you for dinner. I'd like to take you out and get to know you better. So that hasn't happened yet, but my friends tell me it will. Yes. It's just a matter of time. And me, and most of us business people, most of us entrepreneurs don't have patience. We just don't, because we're so all about making things happen in our business, because if we don't, no one will. That does not translate into your dating life. You just can't make it happen, and that's freaking frustrating. So the dating doctors came from my frustrations of not being able to control and make things happen. So this is why this show even exists, was because Yvonne, frustrated as all hell with online dating for 2.5 years, wanting to tell you my crazy stories and all of the people that I've come across, and share that with you, and share my wisdom, and share how to keep yourself safe, and how to make sure that you are spending your energies in the right direction. But I'm here to tell you that this show isn't going to go anywhere, because I don't think I'm going to stop with the online dating. I feel like that's kind of like, the numbers game, throwing a net out into a big ocean and hoping that, this is literally a meme that I want to come up with. If anyone wants to help me make it. Forrest Gump on a boat, he's shrimping, and the first time Forrest Gump puts that net in the water, if you've seen the movie, what does he pull up? Toilet seat, boot, tin cans, and one shrimp. And that's how I describe my dating experience with online dating. I am Forrest Gump who threw the net out, and all I'm looking for is that one shrimp. And I'm going to be pulling up a lot of toilet seats and a lot of boots and a lot of tin cans to find that one shrimp. So that's my Forrest Gump analogy for dating. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week, Thursday, for Dating Doctors, and we're going to have a great topic then as well, and who knows what's going to happen between now and then, and me on my online dating. Will I have a date? Will I not have a date? Most likely I will. That generally happens. But if not, you're still going to hear about all the other crazies that I've met between now and then. So good luck for Yvonne, hopefully. And happy Thanksgiving to you all. And we're going to continue with this next week. Thank you guys. Have a great whole week and Thanksgiving. Bye.